Compost is supposed to save your garden, but what if I told you it could actually be killing your plants without you even realizing it? Every year, countless gardeners unknowingly make small composting mistakes that lead to yellowing leaves, stunted growth, and soil that slowly loses its life. It's frustrating because compost is meant to be the miracle fix, the secret ingredient that turns poor soil into rich, fertile ground. But here's the shocking truth. When used the wrong way, compost can do more harm than good. From draining nutrients to suffocating roots, the damage often happens silently. So today, we're breaking down 5 serious compost mistakes that could be ruining your garden right now, and the easy changes that can help your plants thrive again. At number 5, we have one of the sneakiest and most damaging mistakes gardeners make, using unfinished compost. It might look dark and rich at first glance, but if that compost hasn't completely broken down, it can quietly steal nutrients from your plants instead of feeding them. Here's what's really happening. Unfinished compost is still full of active bacteria and fungi that are busy breaking down organic matter. These microbes are hungry, and to keep decomposing, they pull nitrogen directly out of your soil. That nitrogen is supposed to go to your plants, but now it's being taken away, leaving your crops pale, yellow, and slow to grow. You'll often notice stunted seedlings, dull leaves, or soil that feels strangely compacted after adding it. Those are classic signs the compost wasn't ready. A quick way to test it: grab a handful and smell it. If it smells sour, feels hot, or you can still recognize bits of food scraps, grass clippings, or leaves, it needs more time to mature. Finished compost should be dark, crumbly, cool to the touch, and smell like clean, rich earth. So resist the urge to rush. Let your compost finish cooking before using it in your beds. That extra curing time transforms it from a nitrogen thief into the powerful soil booster your plants deserve. Coming in at number 4 is a mistake that almost every gardener makes at some point: adding too much compost. It feels counterintuitive, right? Compost is supposed to be good for your plants, so it's easy to assume that more of it means faster growth and richer soil. But in reality, piling on too much compost can quietly ruin your soil's balance and suffocate your garden from the ground up. Here's why. Compost is incredibly rich in organic matter, but it isn't meant to replace soil. When you add too much, it traps water and cuts off air circulation around the roots. Without enough oxygen, roots start to rot, and your plants can literally drown even though the soil looks moist. Over time, the excess organic matter breaks down into fine particles that compact the soil even further, especially in clay-heavy beds. Too much compost can also lead to salt buildup and nutrient overload, creating soil that's too rich. You might see huge leafy growth for a few weeks, only for your plants to suddenly wilt or produce weak fruits because the balance of nutrients is off. Another hidden problem is pH drift. The soil can turn too acidic or too alkaline depending on the compost's ingredients. So how much is the right amount? For garden beds, aim for 1 to 2 inches of compost mixed into the top 6 to 8 inches of soil. For containers or raised beds, no more than 25 to 30% of your mix should be compost. Think of compost like a superfood for your soil, a boost, not a meal replacement. When used in moderation, compost transforms poor soil into a thriving ecosystem, but when overused, it does the opposite, choking your plants with too much of a good thing. Balance is the real secret to long-term garden health. At number 3, we have a mistake that can turn your compost pile from a nutrient powerhouse into a ticking time bomb: composting the wrong materials. This one's sneaky because it often starts with good intentions. You toss in kitchen scraps, yard waste, maybe a few extra clippings, but not everything organic belongs in your compost. The first major issue is pathogens and pests. When you add things like meat, dairy, or oily food scraps, they don't just smell bad, they attract rats, flies, and raccoons and can spread harmful bacteria like salmonella. Even compost piles that reach high temperatures often don't get hot enough to completely kill off these pathogens. Then there are toxic plants and diseased materials. Adding weeds that have gone to seed or plants infected with blight, mildew, or rust can spread those problems right back into your garden later. And if you're tossing in leaves from black walnut, eucalyptus, or oleander, you're introducing natural toxins that can stunt or even kill sensitive crops like tomatoes and peppers. Even innocent-seeming items can cause trouble. Things like glossy paper, tea bags with plastic linings, citrus peels in large amounts, or pet waste can all throw off the delicate balance of your compost pile. To build safe, effective compost, stick to the golden rule: 50% greens and 50% browns. Greens include fruit scraps, coffee grounds, and grass clippings, materials high in nitrogen. Browns are things like dried leaves, straw, and shredded cardboard. Carbon-rich ingredients that keep the compost aerated and balanced. So before you toss something in, take a second to think about what it'll add or what it might ruin. because one bad ingredient can undo months of careful composting. At number 2, one of the most overlooked, yet surprisingly destructive mistakes gardeners make is using compost at the wrong time. You might have the best compost in the world, perfectly balanced and nutrient-rich, but if you add it when your plants aren't ready, it can do more harm than good. Timing is everything. Here's what happens. If you spread compost that's still fresh or apply it right before planting, the concentrated nutrients, salts, and even ammonia gases can shock tender seedlings. These young roots are incredibly sensitive. They absorb everything in their surroundings, and high nitrogen or salt levels can burn them almost instantly. It's like giving a baby an energy drink. The strength is just too much, too soon. Many gardeners also make the mistake of adding compost in the middle of the growing season when plants are already established. The sudden change in soil chemistry can throw off pH levels and even trigger nutrient imbalances. You might notice strange leaf curling, slowed growth, or flowers that suddenly stop blooming, all signs that your plants are overwhelmed, not underfed. The best time to use compost is a few weeks before planting season. This gives the soil time to absorb nutrients, balance moisture, and stabilize its microbial life. Another great window is in the fall, right after harvest. That's when your garden is resting, and the compost can break down naturally over winter, leaving rich, ready soil for spring planting. If you're working with container plants or raised beds, it's better to mix compost into the soil ahead of time, instead of layering it on top. Fresh compost sitting near delicate roots can cause burning, while well-integrated compost slowly releases nutrients where the roots can safely absorb them. Here's a simple rule to remember. Compost should work with your plant's rhythm, not against it. Let it become part of the soil before your plants need it, and you'll see stronger growth, deeper roots, and healthier yields. Use it too early or too late, and you'll be left wondering why your garden feels stuck in slow motion. Finally, at number 1, and this might be the most important compost mistake of all, ignoring your soil type and the specific needs of your crops. Not all soil is created equal, and not every plant benefits from compost in the same way. But many gardeners treat compost like a one-size-fits-all solution, dumping it everywhere and hoping for the best. That's where the trouble starts. If your soil is heavy in clay, compost can help loosen it up and improve drainage, but add too much and you can end up with dense, sticky soil that traps moisture. On the other hand, if your soil is sandy, compost helps hold water and nutrients, but going overboard can make it soggy and slow to dry out. The goal isn't to drown your soil in compost, it's to balance it. The same goes for different crops. Plants like tomatoes, peppers, and leafy greens thrive in compost-rich soil because they're heavy feeders. But others, like succulents, herbs, and root vegetables, prefer leaner, less nutrient-dense soil. Ignoring those differences can lead to disappointing results: lush leaves but no fruit, or worse, plants that simply stop growing. Before adding compost, it's worth testing your soil's pH and organic matter levels. A simple soil test can reveal whether your garden actually needs compost or just a specific nutrient boost. Sometimes, adding compost year after year without checking leads to a buildup of phosphorus and salts, which silently weaken your soil over time. Think of it like this: your garden soil is alive, a delicate ecosystem of minerals, microbes, and moisture. Compost is the food that keeps it running, but just like people, it needs the right diet, not just more food. Understanding your soil type and matching it with your plant's needs is what separates a struggling garden from one that flourishes season after season. So before you spread another shovelful of compost, take a moment to understand what your garden is really asking for. A few minutes of observation can save you months of frustration and help your plants reach their full potential. So there you have it, the 5 serious compost mistakes that quietly ruin more gardens than you'd ever expect. Using unfinished compost, adding too much, tossing in the wrong materials, applying it at the wrong time, and ignoring your soil type. Each one can single-handedly turn healthy soil into a struggling mess. But here's the good news: every one of these problems is completely fixable. When you take the time to use compost the right way, it stops being just a pile of decomposed scraps and becomes something much more powerful: living soil food. Compost isn't a fertilizer. It's a foundation for healthier roots, stronger growth, and naturally balanced soil. Remember, gardening isn't about perfection, it's about paying attention. A few small adjustments in how and when you use compost can transform your plants from dull and droopy to vibrant and thriving. So take what you've learned here, head out to your garden, and give your compost the respect it deserves. And if you found these tips helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more science-backed gardening advice, and share it with someone who's struggling with their compost pile. Because great gardens don't happen by accident, they happen when you know what not to do.